Okay, welcome. This is Andy Lee Graham, and I'm in San Pedro, La Laguna, Lake Atalan, Guatemala, one of the world's most beautiful lakes, and for sure one of the greatest climates. I suspect there's probably much more beautiful lakes in the middle of nowhere somewhere, up in the mountains. But you can actually come and live on this lake. Okay, this is a chapter in a book I'm writing, and I got a quote at the very beginning of it. I sleep, talk, and share and learn from my wife. Therefore, nature is one of my many wives. I have many. Oh, that needs fixed. Okay, nature is my wife, and I have many wives. But I'm married to a lot of things. I'm married to exercise. I'm married to food. I'm married to nature. I'm married to. I'm sort of addicted to writing and making videos. And so these are things that I call marriage because I talk, share, and learn from doing this, right? So nature's the same way. And I would not consider myself a tree hugger in the least. On the other side is on review of Henry David Thoreau's never ending talk about nature, I realized that I'm even more onerous than he is. I won't live in anywhere that is not kind of nature. Um, Natural. Okay, natural is nature. Oh, I have not known myself for 25 years to fight with nature. It is my friend. It's like a wife. To me, when it rains, I say, it's a rainy day. I don't complain about my wife. When it's super hot, I go to the beach and swim. I don't complain about the weather. I don't like to even talk about the weather. Lake Atalan is a place where very few people talk about the weather because it's just endless spring. Okay. And one of the reasons I come here, kebab. Oh, yes. Um, but I go to the beach and I see young, beautiful animals walking around. When it rains too much, I buy an umbrella. It's quite fun to walk in the rain in the tropics. Uh, I am not delusional. Unlike most of the other animals I talk with daily, there is no way to fight with nature's. It's powerful. It's beyond words. It's just the most powerful force. People are afraid of hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. These things are out of control. Okay, they're what keeps us makes us have humility. But I have two really good travel experiences on that really made me realize just how little I am. Proved to me that I was little and nothing compared to nature. The first was in Pia de la Cuesta, Mexico. This is about, I guess it'd be about 25 years ago when I first started traveling. I traveled to Pia de la Cuesta and I met a Norwegian girl that made me leave the USA. Okay, but it was called Pia de la Cuesta. It was north of Acapulco, about 8 miles. It was called Sunset Beach. Okay, they like to call it Sunset Beach because you can sit there and watch the sun all the time, right? It's a 20-kilometer spit of land going out into the ocean with the land just perfectly facing the sun. It's a really great place for sun. When I first started traveling, it's where I fell in love with nature. The peace that led me, it's the peace that led me away from home. It's the place that led me away from home. Oh, okay. But what I fell in love with is this beach boy attitude of walking on the beach. And I had been working about 15, 16 hours a day, and I got up every morning and I walked the beach. So every day, for months on end, I would walk, shower, drink a drug called coffee. I had to be real careful with my coffee in the morning when I walked on the beach. Put on my swim trunks and go for a walk on the beach. Barefoot, always barefoot. Pila de la Cuesta Beach, Mexico. When I first started traveling, I dreamt that I would only hotel on this beach. That's what I traveled. I didn't start planning on traveling. It was sort of a evolution, and I don't think anybody that travels perpetually that actually changes location every 2 or 3 months is started on that. They didn't plan on that. Okay, but I mean, some people do when they retire. What I envisioned was a hotel with a bunch of beautiful animals coming in every day, stopping by for a couple weeks, stay in, going to the beach, laying around under the palapa, and having a great time talking about it while we watched this incredibly violent waves. This particular beach has these waves that slam down right at the shoreline. And and it creates this salty mist that will rust anything in about 10 minutes. It'll rust a copper wire really fast. Um, Hold on a second. The the waves on the beach are some of the most dangerous I've ever seen. And what happens is that people would kind of dive through the waves and go out, and then they'd be afraid, and then they would get rolled over in the waves, and then they'd get beyond the waves, and then they realized they didn't know how to come back. So there's about 3 or 4 people that declared that I saved their lives. I would swim out there, basically tread water and swim around until I could explain to them how to reverse their way and basically keep diving into the waves as they come out. And but wham, wham, wham. They were horrible. Okay, they swam out, but they weren't brave enough to return to shore. But I understood how the waves behaved, right? You guys can read, follow along with this on. There's a link at the top of this shot. Okay, I walked barefoot, and I think I went for about 3 months completely barefoot. And if there's one thing I can always recommend to people to get in touch with nature is to walk barefoot, not in this gravel and stones and all that stuff, but normally on the beach. If you go to the beach and you take your shoes off and you wear a swim trunk for I didn't have to use much clothing. It's actually where I first designed the secret pocket so the coins would not fall out of my swim trunk while I'm laying in a hammock. But there's something really invigorating about going to the beach and being in touch with the beach. Because when you put your feet in the sand, what you do is your electrochemical synapses, it balances the electricity in your body. But walking in deep sand, barefoot, trudging along, one learns that the deep sand part of nature is a struggle. So this is a part of struggle of nature. But if you walk in that little brown area, that little watered area right next to the waters, the sand is hard. So we naturally adapt to nature. And it's kind of funny when people do not adapt to nature. And I'm going to keep bringing that up. We are the only animal that really can change our stars, right? Most people just live, most animals, we're an animal, but most animals only live by their instincts, right? They basically do the same thing over and over, and some of them do migrate, but they migrate, and humans have stopped migrating. Okay. In normal life, when we confront nature, instead of living with it and making it our wife, as an animal does, instinctually, we learn to avoid challenges, okay? And so an animal is going to say, when it's cold, the deer are going to go hide in the trees and do different things. Humans do something that's highly unnatural. We try to control nature, okay? And I have not controlled nature for 25 years, and I've talked about this hundreds of times, that I like to live in a hotel room with no air conditioning and no furnace. Why? It's natural. I want to breathe natural air. People will buy thousands of dollars worth of organic food than go live in gas forced air furnaces and air conditioned room. You're breathing conditioned air. Okay. But everyone's the same animal, and when it rains, we know to go for cover. When the sand's too deep, we go to things. So we naturally know how to do this. We know how to take the simpler path, but some reason it's baffling to me how many people just, instead of just like taking a simpler path, they have to go get an air conditioned room and do all sorts of things. They don't even think about it. Which room in the hotel would be the coolest? The bottom rooms are the coolest, the top rooms are the hottest, because the natural coolness of the ground comes up. It's a thermal mass. Okay. Well, what's interesting, one day after spending close to 10 months on this beach, Pia de la Cuesta, Mexico, a place where I didn't put my shoes on for months on end, we would always say, no shirt, life in paradise. No shirt, no shoes, no problem. No shirt, no shoes, no problem. Life is good in paradise. You always know when you're in paradise. How do you know in the paradise is a place where you really have trouble leaving? And but some people live in a paradise that is sort of ironic. They go hide in a room with air conditioning, and they basically watch YouTube all day, and they basically are the opposite of nature, right? Outside, fresh. You know you're in nature when you breathe in the normal air. When you can't breathe the normal air, you're afraid of the normal air. You're the opposite of a nature lover. Love is the same as when I love a woman. I try to leave, but all my excuses don't work. I say I'm leaving this girl, but the next day I'm still there. And all my friends said, I thought you said you was leaving, but when you're in paradise, it's the same thing. You it really takes a lot of work for me to leave Lake Athlon because the climate. I know that when I leave here, I actually have to pay attention to the clothes I wear every day. I mean, I wear about. It's hard to even get a shirt dirty, right? It's you don't sweat really. I mean, you can, but you got to really work at it. But love is like a lover. When you love something, you don't leave it. When you love nature, you don't leave it. You gravitate towards what you love. So I'm always gravitating towards, because I can travel anywhere on the planet, I gravitate towards the easier climates than when it gets snowy in the United States or whatever, or it gets cold in Europe. Like right now, Europe is getting pretty cold. And it's not, Europe, and for a lot of Americans, Europe is like the upper part of Canada. It is not the same level as the United States. And all of Europe is only about the size of from the Mississippi River to the New York City. It's a lot smaller than the United States. And Africa, you can put all the continents on the planet inside the continent of Africa. But I accept a person as my wife. Love is the cessation of complaints, excuses, and plans to leave. Love is the cessation of complaints, excuses, and plans to leave. So when you're complaining about nature, you're not really in harmony with nature, and you don't accept that it's got a right to rain. Okay, you don't accept that it has a right to be cold. You don't accept that it has a right to be hot, and you know we are humans and we can adapt, right? And hold on 1 second. I gotta maybe turn this. I turned the bacon down. Okay, but I'm comparing love of a wife with the love of nature. So when you accept your wife, you don't spend your whole time complaining about it. When you accept your husband, you don't spend your whole time. The people that scare me is the ones that ignore their wives. I mean, that's the biggest insult you can give a partner or mate is to ignore them. Okay, but nature is the same. We ignore it. We try everything to, say, oh, I live in a great place, but I'm living in a box in air conditioning or gas forced air furnace. That's not really in touch with nature. And I, for 25 years, have been in touch with nature quite by accident because I didn't never like the cold. So I just naturally go wherever it's better for my thing. So when I start thinking about Europe right now, I get worried, like, well, it's cold there. It's not the easy path. Generally, I found that the human animal that complains the most about climate change, nature, lives the most unnaturally. Okay, they're going to be the person with the $200,000 house that has everything conditioned. All the air is conditioned. You got air conditioning. You got heat. You're living in you're using an $80,000, $70,000 Toyota Land Rover or some crazy stuff that's basically your footprint is huge. Okay, they like to call it the carbon footprint, but carbon actually helps plants to grow. But the what I've found is I can easily stay in touch with nature if I just separate necessities from wants. The wants are what causes me to be, you know, to not be in touch with nature. So when I buy a car, I'm going the opposite of nature. Walking is natural, free, easy. Cars are expensive and against nature. So we have a conflict here. We have a conflict where we're losing the harmony with nature. Now, I didn't learn this all by plan. I did it quite by accident. I took off traveling and realized that because I could go anywhere almost nomadically, I always went to the places where the least resistance, okay? And where I had the least amount of thinking. So people want me to get reservations. They want me to go to Europe. They want me to do some things that are highly complicated. And I do it, but I do it very, very slowly and very deliberately. The only way I can enjoy Europe easily is to have a room for about 30 days. Um, you know, bouncing around in Europe is highly inconvenient. The United States is even more inconvenient now because of the cost. Um, okay, but gas forced air furnaces and central air conditioning, they are the enemy of nature. We are animals. When the air is cold, we can migrate. And there's never been a time on the planet when we could, I've been talking about doing tiny homes so people could downsize from a huge $200,000 home to just a baby home, and they could shut it down. So the goal would be to click a couple switches, do this, and the water's drained. They shut the whole thing down, and they can go anywhere they want. And they're free because the house is owning people right now. But that's because you're not really living the life of nature. You're living the life of things and stuff. And you never have enough of the stuff. You never will have enough of the stuff that you're really content. It's always going to be, as Henry David Thoreau, you're going to live in a desperate, you're in desperate haste to live in desperate people. I can never say all these things right. I will never be able to say comments correctly because my dyslexic brain changes everything. Okay, would I change my wife? Would I try to change my wife? If I love her, I'm not going to try to change her. If you love nature, you don't really try to change it. You try to accept it. You try to live with it. And this is where it's kind of a Zen, yin yang kind of thing. It's a lot of people never, instead of just saying, how can I adapt? How can I live with nature? They basically try to pay money. You pay money to buy air conditioning. You pay to do this. You pay to do that. And it's almost to me an insult to nature, because nature says, hey, you're the smartest animal on this planet. How can you live it? So I've made multiple videos about how to find the greatest room in a hotel in the tropics or in Africa or whatever, how I get the lower room in the back of the thing, completely encased in concrete with I shut the window, I close the curtains when the sun starts coming in so we don't have a green, and I'm living in complete comfort without air conditioning. And then the hard thing is still to get rid of the fans, okay? Fans are tough because anything over about 83 degrees, it starts to get a little hot. But there are houses, and I've designed a couple houses where I put on, well, if you go to my channel right now, we have one of the houses I designed. It's called passive cooling, and that's to live in harmony with nature. But it's, people like to complain about the weather. It's one of the primary things that people check every day, the weather. And I have never, even when I was younger, I never checked the weather because I couldn't change it. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can. And that's meaning adapt and the wisdom to know the difference. But if you won't try to change the things that you can, I think it's a lack of harmony with nature. Okay, what happened is the power of Pia de Cuesta Beach. This is the power of nature. This is really funny. I was on this beach, and every day I'd get up and walk. One morning I came out, and I was amazed. Whoa, it's like a little kid took a scoop and scooped away the beach. I literally had to use a ladder to get down to the water. But the sand came up about 5 feet, and a lot of the hotels were sort of inundated with sand. And this stayed this way for a long time. Everybody had to rebuild their decks and things on the hotels. It's really amazing. But it literally cut it down. So I mean, this was a drop. This wasn't a gradual like this. It went whoop, boom, took a chunk out of the beach all the way down for about a half a mile. And I go, wow, what happened while I was sleeping? Okay, it was amazing. And I was like, I mean, it was so beautiful because you just realized it wasn't a hurricane, it wasn't a tidal wave, it wasn't all these things. It was just one day the waves decided to take the beach. They did the same thing in Koh Phangan Beach, one of my favorite beaches in Thailand. And I went there the last time. The water was all the way up to the shore, up to the thing, and they used to have this really beautiful, thing. And the water changes. It's not climate change. It's just naturally the beach goes up and down. It's really not the waves, right? I was part of the beach though, and this beach was mine. I was like a huge kid playing laying in the sun, talking to French Canadian girls, having a great life. But nature does a lot of amazing things. Another story about nature and the power of nature that really told me I was small. And this is a story I don't really want to share much, but I went to, because it's my story, something special I did. I went to Chitwan Forest in Nepal with a guy named Rishi, and we got on this, I really should measure it. I think it must have been 15 to 20 feet high elephant. They're not like those ones in they're huge. Okay, this is a gigantic little thing with a little tethered thing on its leg. It's kind of trained. Okay, but I get on this elephant on the back. We had this like little driver guy with the bamboo thing, and he kept pounding on the head of this elephant. We started chasing rhinos. There was like 3 of us on elephants, and it was amazing because this elephant doesn't stop for anything. Okay, it just does not. Nothing is an obstruction. I guess the only animal that is not afraid of a rhino is an elephant. So we're trying to chase it and run it into this kind of concrete thing. And I was on the back with my camera. It was really a bad camera at the time, a Mavic with a little disc in it. And I'm trying to get a picture of this ever fleeting rhino as we went. But what happens is there's these trees like this around. It would literally take its nose, grab those trees, rip them, and throw them out of the ground. And you're going, wow, can you just go around it? Sometimes you're going to the elephant like, please, you're almost scary because I'm on the back of this elephant and your legs are really out like that. The elephant's so big that you're really like almost doing the splits, right? And there's this guy tapping on the elephant's head. Oh man, what an experience. That was the most, that had to be the most exhilarating day of my life. We never did get the rhino in there. I never got a perfect photo, right? But you're only seeing this rhino. The grass was like, it was elephant grass, and it was really, I don't know, I'd say 10 feet high. So the rhino's going through, rhino's a lot shorter than an elephant. It's got the nose thing, and it's going back and forth, and it's just almost impossible to take a video. But that's the power of nature, and that's what we need to enjoy, okay? The worst place I'm going to talk about Dubai. Dubai is the only hell I know on this planet. I don't think anybody in Dubai ever leaves the air conditioning. Every single person in Dubai lives in air conditioning. I would walk about, I don't know, 50 yards down the beach, down the street to go to the supermarket. By the time I got there, I was completely drenched with sweat. It's got to be the most, it's saying move away, walk, go anywhere. Okay. But the only reason they're there is for the oil, right? And somehow humans think that this skyscraper, extraordinary amount of money being spent is beauty. Nature's beauty. Women are beauty. This is something else. This is scenery, right, or something like that. I mean, it's really insane how many people are in love with skyscrapers, living in a box and living in a room with conditioned air. But they are, and it's like we've been trained to go against nature. But gas forced air furnace, air conditioning. You're worried all about what you eat. You're worried about all these supplements, but you don't. We can only live 3 minutes without breathing, and that's the least amount of concern. I actually make jokes all the time about New York and California and places because they got all this carbon monoxide, this odorless, colorless thing, and it's going up in the air, and they're just living in carbon monoxide clouds, and this stuff goes up in the air and it settles down on everything. It's a chemical entering through your skin. We need to stop and think. Why am I doing all these things to try to live comfortably? If I can't just live comfortably in my house, there seems to be an enigmatic problem, right? And there's never been a time more where we could get on a $150, $300 plane and spend time. And I think in the future, what will happen is people will have these smaller houses, and they may have little micro houses all around the planet. Or if they're really smart, they won't even own the thing. People want to talk about ecological travel, eco travel, ecological travel, or whatever, right? And the only way to be ecologically correct is to not travel because they go build a big, huge hotel in the middle of Costa Rica, and that destroys nature. Okay. Um, this is me and my story, okay? And but we should always adapt and make progress, okay? But when a person stops asking why, they're no longer in touch with nature, okay? Because they can't be in touch with anything. If you don't constantly say, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better wife? How can I be a better son? How can I be a better steward to the world? How can I be a better person? How can I make progress? We're kind of incompatible with nature. There's people that never try to become a better person. They look at it like somebody else's responsibility, and they basically are totally static. They are very satisfied with who they are. And a person that's really satisfied with who they are inside of nature and everything is constantly trying to adapt. I have to turn down, even in Lake Athlon, where they have very few plastic bags, I have to turn down at least 2 or 3 bags a day. I take my backpack and I got 2 or 3 bags inside of it, like when I buy broccoli, when I buy chicken livers, I really double bag it. But I carry the bags and then I put it in the backpack. But people, they don't even have a second thought about these bags, right? That's why they should always be a charge on bags or cans or anything. I mean, my friend Watt said it's real easy to solve the aluminum problem. All you do is put about 25 cents worth of aluminum in the bottom of each can, and nobody would throw them away. There's always a simple solution. And this is where I'm concerned about the public is we're not really looking for the solutions that are natural. This is all written. There's a link. I'll try to put the link for these people on live um, where I'm reading from, but I'm not even close to reading it as I'm writing it right. as I'm saying it. I'm going live and making a video at the same time. But the goal is that I evolve, right? So why am I going live at the same time I'm making a video? Because feedback is how we evolve. We basically get feedback on our environment. We get feedback on how we're talking. We get feedback. And then we also get trolls, right? And the trolls, we learn how to deal with stress, okay? The guy wrote real rudely, get a haircut. I'm so grateful that YouTube finally gave me this ability to hit this button and say, hide this user from my channel. Okay. Conditioned air, forced air, fear, these are unnatural words. When I tell you to plan your escape, I really mean it. I'm not joking. Plan your escape. And we don't all go to the same place because one person's heaven is another person's hell. Okay? But I really want you to plan your escape, but I really want to plan how to escape the cultural vice you're in. This you're in a vice. And you don't know it until you leave it. Then you go, oh man, I was really thinking. I'll tell you a funny thing about my dog Tinker. It took me years to understand why I get angry at people with dogs. It took me years. Why am I so angry at these things? I had a dog named Tinker. It was a free-range dog. It roamed all around the town of Orland. And I'd go with my BB gun. We'd go hunting for rabbits and all sorts of stuff, right? And it always just was my best friend and, whatever. And I never once put it on a chain. It would come scratching the door and we'd knock and we'd let it in. It lived in the house. It'd sleep at the bottom of the bed. It would do anything it wanted to do, okay? And it was free, okay? And to me, it was very natural, okay? And if any dog got too violent in the city, they'd come up missing or somebody would shoot it, right? We were practical. We weren't going to let animals control our life. But when I see a person walking down the road with 3 dogs on chains, I feel like they're slaves. I would never do that to my dog Tinker. Put him on a chain. But people are doing everything they can to control the world, and they're basically enjoying putting animals on chains for their own pleasure. I feel sorry for people living in houses in the United States that are 10,000 square foot and they don't have servants or something to take care of them. They're maintenance people. They're maintenance men and women. That's all they do is take care of that house. The house owns them. The car owns them. The job owns them. And all you got to do is live by necessities instead of the luxuries. If you pare down your life to just the necessities of life, live in like one room. Somebody's sawing. Life is good. Okay. Oh man. I'm laughing. I'm using this AI thing to help me proofread, and sometimes it always wants to give me a statement. Oh, that was a good phrase. And sometimes I don't delete it. Why does mankind want to own nature? Want to put it on a leash, enslave it, walk it, or live in air conditioned or hot forced air free? If we sit, think, and contemplate. If we sit, think, and contemplate. That's what we're capable of doing, okay? Why would I enter a building called skyscrapers? Why would I live and work in a building with no open windows where all the air is basically circulating? Why would I do that? That is not the goal of life. The goal of life is to enjoy life. But when you separate yourself from nature, what you do is become kind of a slave to the buildings, a slave to the dogs, a slave to all these things, right? A dog should not be a slave. It should be your partner. It should be your friend. When people want to control something, there's a worrisome thing there, right? We work too hard to fight with nature, and when a person works too hard to change their wife or husband, there is a divorce. When we are one with a person, everything is easy, it's natural, and it's nature. breathing air that is altered at a conference, drinking alcohol, complaining about the climate. They go to the conferences on airplanes. They have private airplanes to go to a conference to complain about climate change, and then they wear a suit with a little tie around their neck, which basically has no use at all except to hang them, right? They're drinking alcohol, complaining about the climate, doing nothing natural, but they don't see that they're looking silly, right? They look silly. The farther you go, if you really stop and say, this animal's walking around with all these clothes on in the middle of a thing like a bunch of peacocks. We're walking down the wrong path. Wearing suits and strange decoration called ties, complaining about the other animals on the planet. It's not natural. Basically, animals live together in harmony. When humans don't live in harmony, they're something less than an animal. They're really brute animal, like Henry David Thoreau. I simplify. This is something Henry David Thoreau. Try to live by just your necessities, jettison luxuries, live minimally, maybe live in one room, adapt and learn. Everything beyond necessity is at odds with nature. Everything you do that is all these extra things, this just makes life more complicated. I sold real estate in the United States, and I always wore sandals and shorts during the summer. And people would say, why don't you put on a suit? And I'd say, it's 85 degrees. Would you like a real estate agent that is dumb? Or would you like a real estate agent that has a brain? I adapt. I'm going to help you. But a 10,000 square foot home is outrageous. And if you're going to complain about climate change, you're insulting the idea. Everybody is naturally wanting the climate to be good. Nobody's trying to destroy it. They just didn't think that way. I have plenty of money. Makes me feel secure. I like money. It makes me feel secure, but I want the money to kind of hoard it so that I can, for a rainy day when things are tough, right? But I don't want a house. I don't dream of desires. I don't pray for desires. I don't think about houses. We can rise above. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We can rise up to a higher level where basically we don't spend all our time talking about food, shelter, heat, weather, and things like that. And we can have some integrity. To want more than you need is not natural. To want your wife or husband to change is not natural. That's not a harmonious relationship, is it? To tell it to stop raining, to get angry when it's raining, is to get angry at the gods for rain. That's just to get angry at the weather, something you cannot change. When will people just accept life on life's terms? Life is good when we accept that we are not to chain up our fellow man, force them into work in boxes, in big skyscrapers with no air, take others and put them on chains to our own enjoyment. Take other animals and chain them up. Simplify. Living with too much is not natural or in tune with nature. It's a life where stuff is never enough. When stuff is never enough, this is George Carlin, right? He makes a joke, but nobody takes it serious. They're in love with their stuff. And your stuff will never be enough. Okay, you cannot buy enough stuff to be happy. It's only through relationships that are in harmony with each other where basically it's simplified. A simple relationship is always together. A complicated relationship is where the man ignores the wife ignores things. They have contempt for each other. They talk with a tone of voice. If anything I could ever tell you is when you listen, one thing great about learning a foreign language is you may not understand a word, but you understand the tone of voice, and you can walk away. Okay, I'm going to drink my Nescafe coffee. Why do I drink that? Because it's simple. I just like to do it. Why am I going live at the same time as I'm talking right now? Because I want to learn more than I want to buy something. I want to become a better person. And only by listening to the ideas of my fellow man. And everybody is a genius. Absolutely everybody has something they're genius at. I used to have this guy with a tattoo that worked for me, Steve, and he had a tattoo of a knife on his arm. He spent 12 years in prison, for robbing a bank after, I don't know, he got upset with a woman. And when I had relationship problems, he could make it simple. And he'd say something like, she hollered at you? Well, he'd always say that one tweaker, but bazinga comment that made me understand that love is simple. They don't treat you with contempt. Okay, they treat you very pleasantly and they listen. He always simplified things. It was really amazing how he just understood how to be happy. Sometimes we overanalyze things. We have an analysis paralysis, a mental masturbation that just is out of control. I'm here and you're not. Why not? I'm here because I live an examined life where I introspect continuously, daily, on what is the next best step to take. Okay, hit that subscribe button if you liked what I wrote about. If you don't like it, just go do something else. Anybody that gets on these live chats and starts complaining, I'm going, get a life. Your whole goal is to be a troll so that you can, a troll. This is the least valuable person on the planet. Somebody that wants to cancel somebody that wants to get an X and tell them why they're an idiot. When I see these Islamic people, Muslim women in the United States screaming at the government, like trying to get the Palestine versus Israel thing, I see is just crazy. They want to be enemies. That is not the goal. If that's the goal in life, both of you are my enemy. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. Life is good, and listen to the tone of voice and look for the smile on their face and feel the vibrancy of people. When they don't do that, walk the other way. Take the natural path and walk on a different path.